Creating art inside of Photoshop requires the artist to have a comprehensive understanding of the layer mask system inside of Photoshop. I've loaded a couple textures over here into Photoshop, and on the top I have this lovely little wood texture, and below it I have this cool metal texture. Working with layer masks in Photoshop allows us to interactively turn parts of our image on and off. And the cool thing about it is that we don't actually delete those parts of the image. We're just turning the visibility on and off. To apply a layer mask to our wood layer, let's select it and go all the way down to the bottom of the layers palette to this icon right here. It's the black square with the little white circle in the center. If I click on it, you can see that the layer mask gets immediately applied and linked to my wood layer. Now, this thumbnail here represents the layer mask, and it beautifully communicates the whole layer system and what it's built around. Right now, our layer mask has been flooded with white pixels, and we can see 100% of our wood texture, okay? Now, the system inside the layer masking that I want you to remember is based off of colors, okay? So what we're ultimately doing here is we're influencing the colors on our layer mask, and those colors are going to determine the transparency of that layer. Right now, the color of our layer mask is white, and that's an important one, because white pixels inside of our layer mask are going to reveal the image. So remember that, it's going to reveal. Inversely, black pixels inside of our layer mask are going to conceal the image, so it's going to turn it off. So that, remember this, white reveals, black conceals. White pixels in our layer mask are going to make our layer opaque. Black pixels in our layer mask are going to make that layer transparent. I have my layer mask selected, and if you look very carefully, I get little black outlines, little black lines around the corners that represents and tells me that I'm working on the layer mask, not the layer, okay? So I can actually select the layer, and now those little black outlines around the corner move. I want to paint on the layer mask, so I got it selected, and I'm going to go grab my paintbrush and load it with black. Now remember our mnemonic, right? White reveals, black conceals. So when I paint black pixels inside my layer mask, it's going to conceal that part of the wood texture. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Voila, okay, so I just painted a funny little shape inside my layer mask, and we can now see the result of that. I'm looking through, I've basically punched a custom hole inside my wood texture, and I can see through underneath onto that metal texture. Now, the great thing about layer masks is that they're non-destructive. I haven't deleted the pixels in here, I've just turned the visibility of those pixels off, okay, and that's the important thing. They're just off. They're not gone, they're just off. So we can turn them back on by painting with white. So back to my foreground color picker. Now instead of painting with black, I'm going to paint with white, and check it out. I can turn those pixels back on now by replacing the black pixels in my layer mask with the white ones. Okay? Pretty cool, huh? Pretty cool. There it is. And if you look at my little image thumbnail, we can see the result of that. It's again flooded with white, and we're seeing 100% of my wood texture. So black will turn the pixels off, white will turn the pixels on, but what about all those lovely shades of gray in between? Let's go figure out what we're talking about. Just real quickly to illustrate my point, I want to paint with some black, and I want to paint over here, okay, just a funny little line. You can see I painted black. But now, instead of painting with black, I'm going to paint with like, I don't know, 50% gray. Let's see what happens when I do that. A little interesting. If you look at my thumbnail, on the left you can see I have black, and on the right I have gray. And where it's gray, I'm getting a percentage of transparency. It's not off or on like it is with white and black. Now we're getting a percentage of transparency. Now the percentage of transparency is completely driven by the percentage of gray that you selected. So I'm in my HSB values here, and I chose 50% gray. So the value of transparency that I'm getting is 50%. Okay, pretty cool, huh? Pretty cool. So I'm just going to very quickly go back to paint with white, and I want to get rid of all these guys because I want to show you one additional thing, and this is very, very cool. Now, we are not limited to working with the layer mask tool only with the paintbrush. We can use this this layer mask with basically any of the tools inside of Photoshop. Because remember, all we're doing is we're creating a new image that's responsible for the transparency of my wood layer. So if I went over to, oh, I don't know, let's create just a custom shape, and we'll create a circle, and we'll fill that circle with black. There we go. Check it out. Since I'm on my image mask, anything that I do inside that image mask is going to affect the transparency of the associated pixels. In addition, since this is just an image, we can also continue to edit this image on the fly, right? So I got it selected. Check it out. If I go up here to filter, all of the filters that we're used to working with in Photoshop can be applied to our image map, our layer mask, because it's nothing more than an image, just like the metal layer and just like the wood layer. It's all the same, which is very, very cool. So if I just do a good old Gaussian blur on this bad boy, check it out. If I increase the value, now we're kind of getting some lovely, lovely, lovely soft edges here. And that's because we're blurring that black sphere. If I hit OK and analyze my image map, or excuse me, my layer mask, you can see the fuzzy edges on the outside of the black sphere is giving us a nice soft circle here in the center. Now, if you want to delete your layer mask, it's really, really easy, but let me show you a little trick. I want to keep my wood texture. I just want to start over and delete this little image mask here, okay? So if I unlink them by clicking on the little link, there we go. Now, if I left click on the layer mask icon, not this one, this one. I'm going to left click and drag this guy all the way down into the trash can, and I'm going to get this little popover. It says, apply mask to layer before removing. Now, if you hit apply, it's permanently going to change the layer, okay? We don't want that. We just want it to delete it. Bam. And now we're back to our starting point. So layer masks, it's an extraordinarily powerful system inside of Photoshop. At the core of everything that we're doing inside of Photoshop revolves around masking. We want to use this non-destructive workflow to turn pixels of a certain layer on and off. It definitely helps us because we want to have the ability to go back in and turn them back on to make further edits to adjust the image after the fact. This non-destructive process gives us flexibility, and most important, it's going to allow us to edit at any time. We never want to delete things because we always want to be able to go back in and edit them later. So start using layer masks. They're your best friend, especially when you're texturing objects here in Photoshop or generating some artwork, because it gives you ultimate flexibility when you're designing whatever it is that you're painting here in Photoshop.